Hi, this is Mark Stewart. Welcome back to my continuing series on the long-term effects of bullying and how you can find hope and healing. This is part of the promotion for my new book, Names Will Hurt Me, Healing for Victims of Bullying. In these videos, I'm only able to hit the surface. I'm only able to really give a few of the highlights. In the book, I go into much greater detail, and it will give you a lot more tools that you can use. But I want you to be able to, even if you can't afford the book or you're not in a place to do it right now, I want you to get something out of this. I want you to begin the healing process. I want that for you so much. And I know it's possible. The last video in this one, I'm dealing with a pretty weighty subject, the idea of forgiveness. That before you can move on, that ultimate road trip, which is the metaphor I used in the book, you've got to unpack the car. You've got to get rid of the sludge out of the engine. You've got to unpack the baggage from the inside of the car. You can't move forward until you get rid of this stuff. And forgiveness is not easy. I'm not going to tell you that just poof and it's done and you've forgiven everybody and you get to move on with your life. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some time. But it is possible. It is worth it. So let's talk about the real steps in forgiveness. Okay, first of all, you've got to acknowledge the pain. Maybe you've spent years telling yourself it wasn't that bad or you've moved past it, but yet you still have things going on in your life that you know are from your past. Maybe you have social anxiety because of what they did to you, and social environments represented pain, and you've avoided those. Maybe you've avoided places where you might run into the bullies if you still live in the same area, or tried to avoid them as much as possible because seeing them brings up feelings and emotions. There's still probably a lot of churning pain that you might not have dealt with. If that's true and you're still struggling with social anxiety, depression, anger, bitterness, don't just keep denying it. Acknowledge the pain. Acknowledge that what was done to you was painful and that hurt you, and it might have done even some real damage to you psychologically. Now you can heal from that damage, but just acknowledge that it was painful. It wasn't just something that was part of growing up, as a lot of people used to tell us. No, it hurt you. Acknowledge that. Be willing to accept that fact. Now, the next one is a really tough one. You're going to have to stop running from it. You're going to have to stop hiding from the pain or burying the pain down and so that you don't have to deal with it, covering it up with anger or with maybe even success. I know some people, when I talked about the overachiever, that what they do is they try to be successful and the best at everything, and it's all activity, but they haven't dealt with the underlying issues that are deep down. Allow yourself to begin to feel the pain. When those memories or those emotions come up, don't run from them. Now, don't give in to them, because if you what's called ruminate with it, you just sit and recycle this over and over or replay like a video what happened to you. And oh, woe is me. Rumination is a horrible thing, and it will put you where you are and you'll never get past it. I'm not saying to replay the pain over and over and over again. Just don't run from it. Allow it to surface. But then try to take that mental step back from it. Visualize yourself seeing the pain but not necessarily feeling it. Yeah, you're going to feel it to a point, but don't let it take over. But don't run from it either. You're going to have to allow yourself to realize that you were hurt. And sometimes those feelings are going to surface. And when they do, don't just squash them down. Don't just say, well, I'm past all that, and move and start moving. There's times to move, and I'm going to talk about that. There's times to not stay where you're at and keep ruminating. But you are sometimes going to have to allow those feelings to surface. But then take a more objective look. Use that conscious part of your mind, that logical part of your mind, to say, where did that feeling come from? Ask yourself a few questions. Where did this feeling come from? Is it related to what I went through? Is it part of my past? Does it have to be part of my future? See, it might have been yes for the first few, but it doesn't have to be yes for that last one. It does not have to define who you are now. It was who you were. It was what you dealt with. It is part of what made you into the person you are today, because all of your experiences go into making kind of who you are, but it's not who you are tomorrow. Who you are now, who you were then, that's not who you are going to be tomorrow. You are going to change. You're going to change 1 second. The second that you stop this video, just the fact that you watched this video, that you've listened to me, that maybe it's resonated, that you struggle with all this stuff, has begun making changes. Any experience that you have changes you. Maybe minute, maybe tiny, but it changes you. Decide that you will not be a victim anymore, that you will not be the victim of bullying again, that you will not allow this to continue in your life, that you are going to forgive and you are going to heal. Allow it to come to the surface, but don't give in to it. This is a tough balance, and it takes practice. As I said in the last video, forgiveness is not a once and done thing. This is a process, and it takes time. But you can do it. Take that time to separate it. Next, you've got to decide to forgive. And you have to decide this not as a surface, oh, I'm going to forgive, and not really mean it. You've got to mean it from here. It's got to be that you want forgiveness and you want freedom from the past so bad that you are hungry and you are willing to do anything to get it. Grab it with everything you have and say, I want release from my past and I want to forgive, because that is a key to getting past it. That is a key to getting rid of the baggage. You've got to want it. Really, truly want to forgive. That's easier said than done. Trust me, because you are going to want to hide from it. It's natural. Nobody wants to face pain. Nobody wants to deal with pain. Nobody wants to deal with this stuff. It's not fun. But it's needed and it's necessary. So just sit there like, I'm going to do this. You're going to make a decision. I want this. Because you need it. You need to get beyond it for you. Because it releases you. It does. Next, release the pain. You're like, how do I do that? You simply say out loud, I release you. I forgive. Simply go out loud. Say, I forgive you. I forgive. I go on. I'm not going to allow this to control me anymore. I'm done. I choose to forgive. Now, it is again a process. It's not going to happen overnight. You might have to do this over and over and over again. And here's the other thing that's going to seem really strange. You might have to just fake it till you make it. I know that seems really a weird concept, but you can. You can simply say, I choose to release it. And if you mean it, you really mean it, even though it doesn't feel like it happened, trust me, you did. You made a step. The next time you start feeling those feelings of anger or bitterness, or you start feeling yourself have just something's not right, and you realize it's from the past, say, again, make that decision, do it again, I release it, I forgive. And do it over and over and over again, and eventually you will no longer have to fake it. It will happen and it will be real. Remember, this is a process. This doesn't happen overnight. But I can guarantee you, if you start this process, you will, even the first time you go through these steps, you're like, okay, I choose to forgive. I'm not going to live this way. You will feel lighter. Immediately you will feel lighter. It may come back in a little while and you're like, here I go again. You might have to do that. You're like, okay, here I am again. This is back. Why is it back? Well, it's taken years and there's a lot of levels, like almost like an onion or something. There's different levels. And you get rid of one and there's another level under it. You get rid of that one, but you keep digging until you get to the core and you finally get rid of all of it. There'll be one day. I want to take a second because I have to kind of go back to my memories. I remember the day that I went through an entire day and I didn't have to go through this process anymore. I remember at the end of the night thinking, I didn't have those feelings anymore. I didn't have that anger from the past. I was shocked. It was just kind of like having an illness that becomes such a part of you. I used to have migraine headaches. And I didn't realize how bad the migraines were until I got into a study, and all of a sudden they started giving me this new medicine, and the migraines were gone. And I remember thinking, there's no pain. It was such an odd feeling. The pain had become such a part of my daily life, I thought that was normal. It wasn't normal. And I was without the pain. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And now when I get even a mild headache, I'm like, ouch. But I live with that on a daily basis. You live with this pain every single day. There will come a point, if you start this process, you start going through these steps, and you make a decision to deal with it, it won't happen today, but it will happen that you will come to a point, you'll be like, I don't have that anger anymore. I don't have that bitterness anymore. And don't forget that you have to release the people that you're angry at. And even, here's the big one, once you've released the bullies, you have to release yourself. You got to go through this whole process for yourself and let yourself off the hook. That was harder for me than releasing the bullies. I had to forgive myself because I blamed myself even though it wasn't my fault. But it is possible. And the freedom when you get on the other side of this is so incredible. But the only problem is nothing exists in a vacuum. You get rid of the car, you unpack it, you better fill it with something good. Because if you don't, it's going to get filled up with junk again. So don't just get rid of the baggage from the past, but be ready to fill it with something good. I'm going to start talking about that as we turn the corner again in the next couple of videos. Thank you.